Welcome to the Photography is My Passion podcast, episode 6. In this episode, we're going to talk about getting started in wedding photography.
Okay, so you just started out as a wedding photographer, or you're thinking about starting out as a wedding photographer or getting into wedding photography. I'm going to offer you my opinion. Now, I'm going to stress this is my opinion, this isn't written in stone. A lot of people are going to disagree with what I'm going to say, but take it for what it's worth. First of all, you're going to be a wedding photographer, you're going to get into it. First thing you have to realize is that you're a business person first and a photographer second. You could say you're a business person first, you're a marketing person first, you're a salesman next, then you're a photographer. So the photographer is really down the rung, and you're going to find that the time you spend taking pictures is very little compared to everything else you're going to have to do. That is ultimately why I stopped doing weddings. I was making good money at it and doing very well, but I was losing my love of photography because the photography got tied into the business, and the business became just so demanding. And the marketing, the actual hours I spent doing everything except the photography, it just became to me a burden, and I didn't enjoy photography anymore in general. I didn't even take cameras when I would go to a scenic place anymore to take a nice landscape. I was losing my love of photography. So I stopped doing weddings. So you're going to have to really understand from the get-go that you're a business person first. Now, being that you're a business person, you're going to have to understand there's a lot of requirements involved. Now, back when I did weddings, we shot film. So I would shoot, let's say, a Saturday wedding, and I'd shoot a lot of images. And I didn't process my own color film. So I would take it to the lab on Monday, and the lab would process it by either Monday night or Tuesday. Usually I'd pick it up on Tuesday. And I'd have proofs, and I'd have negatives. Now I'd have to match the negatives to the proofs. So I would spend a long time, a couple hours, matching negatives to proofs, and I would number the back of the proof to the number negative. So roll 1, picture 1, and I'd put it, 1-1 on the back of the negative. You'd have to do that. Then you'd have to assemble a proof book. And you don't just, these books that for weddings, they're not just like a simple book you would just slide images into. You really had to put these things together, so it takes a lot of time. Put the proofs together. You would then have to make an appointment with your clients to present the proofs to them, explain to them again what you sold to begin with, and we'll get into selling in a minute. And then they'd have to pick proofs for their wedding album. Then you'd have to get those printed. Then you'd have to get those put together in a wedding album, which again is not easy to put together. They take some time. Now, you're thinking, well, that was then, this is now, we have digital. Well, now you're presented with some other things you have to do. You're shooting raw, I hope. You should be shooting raw. You're going to have to process all these images. It's going to take a lot of time. You're still going to need a way to present the images to your client, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Then they're going to order, hopefully, images, and we're going to talk about other things, shoot and burn photographers and stuff like that. So, anyways, this is a lot of things you're doing that isn't actually taking the picture, so isn't actually doing photography. So you have to be aware of that. Just get that in your head right away, that you're a business person first. I said that about 6 times. Just remember that. The other thing is insurance. You're going to need really make sure that you're insured. Now, I'm not an insurance person, and requirements vary from state to state, from country to country, so you have to really educate yourself on insurance. Generally speaking, you're going to need 3 different types of insurance coverage in a blanket policy. You're going to need something for your equipment. If your equipment is lost or stolen, you need to be covered for that so you could get replacement equipment. Secondly, you're going to need like personal liability insurance. Let's say you're in a church and you trip over your own feet and you knock over a statue and it smashes into a bazillion pieces. you're going to have to pay for the statue. So you need that type of insurance. Also, you need insurance that will protect you if you're negligent to your client. You didn't produce what you promised. If another thing too is, let's say you've seen those funny videos where an entire wedding party is walking out on a flimsy dock and the dock collapses and all the wedding party falls in the water. Well, it's pretty funny. But if you were the photographer and you told them to get on that dock, they might sue you, especially if someone was hurt. So you need insurance to cover you for incidents like that. So you're going to need insurance. Just don't even consider being a wedding photographer without getting insurance. Taxes, make sure you have a lawyer and an accountant that will brief you and educate you on your taxes, due dates, things like that. Here in the United States, our government expects us to pay our taxes before we put food on the table. So taxes are very important, and quite frankly, not paying taxes or getting behind on your taxes is what sinks most businesses anyway. So you really got to be aware of your taxes and make sure that you're charging enough so that you can make a living and pay your taxes and buy the insurance and all that type of thing. So, that's it. I'm not going to go on too much more about the business side of it, but you really have to educate. There's more. You really have to know the business side of it. Now, the marketing side of it, it's easier to get into wedding photography if you start out as a second shooter for an established wedding photographer. You learn the ropes, you learn what's required. And a lot of things I don't see talked about much is you might be brought up in a certain faith or are familiar with a certain faith. For instance, where I live, most people are Christian. They're either Roman Catholic or Protestant. So I'm very familiar with Catholic and Protestant weddings. They're pretty much the same. So I'm familiar with what shots are needed and things like that. Well, what if a Jewish couple come up and want you to be their photographer, an Indian couple? You have no clue, right? So you're going to have to probably turn those down. Well, if you're a second shooter for an established photographer, you probably will stumble into being a second shooter at some other types of ceremonies, different faiths. So you'll learn that. But not only that, you'll learn the shots that are required, how maybe to relate to the wedding party, to parents, to things like that. Stuff like that. You'll learn a lot being a second shooter. That's how I started. I was a second shooter. I was an assistant to two different photographers when I was younger, and one of them was a wedding photographer. And being an assistant, you kind of build up your own portfolio too. So when you're ready to go out on your own, you have images to show people. If you're just starting out and you can't really be an assistant to another photographer and you want to do weddings, you don't really have anything to show people, to show them you're competent enough to do their weddings. So what you're going to have to do is probably do a relative or a friend's wedding where they don't have enough money maybe to pay a photographer, and you're going to be doing it hopefully not gratis, but maybe you can do it for cost or something like that. And with the understanding that you're going to be using their images in a portfolio to hopefully get you more clients down the road. And a lot of photographers do that, and that will work out well. So that is a way to at least get some images to begin with so you could show potential clients. With that said, whatever images you choose to show potential clients, make sure they're great images. Don't put anything in there that is maybe a little bit out of focus, embarrassing, something like that. Just make sure they're beautiful, beautiful images. You're better off having 10 fantastic images instead of maybe 10 fantastic images and 20 mediocre images. So you're better off just having your best work shown. Now, okay, assuming now you got all the taxes down, you got your insurance, your legal, everything's like that, you have a portfolio of images you could show potential clients. There's two different ways you could go, and what's popular nowadays is the shoot and burn photographer. And I am very biased against shoot and burn photography. I think it's bringing the industry down. I think it's amateurish. Now I know it's easy. You just shoot the wedding, you process the images, you throw it on a thumb drive and give it to them. They pay you, and you're done. Well, there's really could be so much more to wedding photography than just that, and that really just puts you in the amateur category right away, in my opinion. A lot of clients will want the raw images. That's the popular thing. They've heard from their aunt, from their cousin, from the whatever, that, make sure the photographer gives you their raw images. Well, it's up to you to explain to them what raw images are, because they have no clue. Trust me. The raw images are unprocessed images. They're not fit to be printed. And they're usually outtakes or blurry images, the ones that you would never give them to begin with. So just explain, you don't give raw images. You'll lose a sale. So what? You don't want that sale, trust me. You're better off, instead of doing a wedding every Saturday, charging $1,000, being a shoot and burn photographer, you're much better off, say, doing one wedding a month, charge $4,000, or charge $2,500, but you'll find you'll get so many more print sales that you'll end up making $4,000. So you're only working one Saturday a month instead of 4, and you're making the same amount of money. You're much better off doing it that way. Now, back when I did it too, I mentioned we had to sort negatives and order prints and had to physically go to the lab and pick up print. Nowadays, everything's online, and it's so much easier to market yourself as a photographer. And what you want to do is have two or three packages. But first of all, before actually you do that, maybe is to examine the market where you are. See what other photographers are offering. See their pricing. Because, you could get into the ballpark, hopefully, and be competitive. Don't undersell yourself. It's kind of a knee-jerk reaction when anyone is starting a business. They just want to undercut the competition right away. There really is no need to. If you're competent, if you're a good photographer, if you have 10 good prints you could show prospective clients, there is absolutely no reason for you to be cheaper than everyone else. So be competitive with everyone else. Get your prices out there. Have maybe 2, 3, 4 packages at the most. Should you put your prices online? A lot of people argue that you should. A lot of people argue that you shouldn't. Again, I think that should probably be to your market. If it looks like your top 5 wedding photographers in your market are not putting their prices online, then don't put yours online. If they seem to be putting their prices online, then maybe you'd want to put your prices online. Whatever you do, though, when you're going to book a client, you need a contract. Now, there's boilerplate contracts you can find online that cover the basics, but you really want to make sure that you bring it to a lawyer and you cover everything you need to cover. Make sure that you're covered for liability as much as possible, so that they just can't sue you on a whim because in their opinion the pictures aren't good enough or something like that. Because you hear these stories all the time about somebody thinks they're a lawyer and they think they could get out of paying you, so they're going to bring you to small claims court or something like that. So make sure that you have as much as you can in the contract. So get a boilerplate contract and bring it to a lawyer that could help you, and tell them what you want to make sure you're protected against, and it will all get written into the contract. Also, make sure that you own the images. You're not giving them you own the images. That way, down the road, you can market them to stock photo agencies if you so choose. You could use them in your advertising. You could use them to show other clients. All that has to be in the contract. So just make sure that's all covered. You might need separate model releases signed if you plan on selling them to stock agencies in the future. As a matter of fact, I would say you would definitely need model releases signed. But you don't have to. Just that's only if you're going to sell them, separately to like a stock photo agency or something like that. So the contract's very important. Make sure that that is really protecting you, and it's religiously you have to get that signed all the time by both the bride and the groom, both. Now, mentioned I don't like this shoot and burn photography at all. So what do you do? Well, in my day, like you had to get proof books, you had to go bring them proof books and they chose images. But nowadays you can do it all online. There's websites. There's like SmugMug, it comes to Photofolios, Sendfolio, I'm sure there's dozens. And what you would do with these sites, and they're not cheap, okay? They're not cheap. You would shoot a wedding, and you would put the images from that wedding, the processed images from that wedding, on the website. And there's different packages you could purchase, but the one you would want to purchase is usually the professional top-of-the-line package, where you would have a separate login for each individual wedding that you do. So if you're doing the Smith wedding and you shoot it, the Smith wedding would have their own login information. So the bride and groom, the people in the wedding, the parents could all log in to, let's say it's SmugMug for the sake of argument, and see their images. And only they'll be able to see it because you gave them, and only them, the password to get into theirs. And if you did the Anderson wedding, the Anderson password won't work for the Smiths and vice versa. So they could come in, and what these sites do, they work with professional labs, Bay Photo Lab, MPix, top labs, now especially in the United States. Now, if you're in a different country, you're going to have to make sure that you're with one of these places that has a lab that is convenient to you in your country. Meaning, if SmugMug only has labs in the United States and the United Kingdom, it's not going to do you much good if you're in Australia. So you got to make sure that you're with a lab or with one of these websites that has a lab that could be responsive, be near you, and work with you. So you always got to check that out. Recently, well, maybe 2 years ago, I had a student, and I recommend them to use SmugMug, and he was in Australia, and he actually signed up for it, and then found out that the nearest lab to him was, the United States, and it didn't work for him. It just didn't work for him, and I felt bad. He kind of wasted his money. So make sure, check out the lab, that it's a lab you like. And what happens is when the Smiths log into this website, they'll be able to order prints, and the site handles all the transaction. So they pay them. They keep a small percentage. You command the prices. So when you sign up for the site, you say exactly how much the prices are. So photographer A could be on SmugMug and sell 8x10s for $10 a piece. Photographer B could be on SmugMug and they're selling the same exact 8x10 for $20 a piece. So you are the one that makes the pricing. So what you do is you sell a package and they're going to get 12 prints in an album. You tell them that you have all the prints with numbers on the site. You tell them to call you or email you with the 12 numbers that they want in their album. And then you tell them anything they want above that, they purchase directly from the site. And then you get the 12 made yourself, printed, and create the album. And then anything extra they purchase gets added to the album. And if they want a 16x20 or a 20x24 or some big print for their wall, all that will be available through one of these sites. And you could sell that on top of that. Now, as far as the mechanics of it all is, still all the prints, you have it set up so the prints come to you. And this is assuming you're going to be making an actual album that gets put together, the older style album. There are books now very popular, and that's up to you if you want to offer the books instead of the album or offer both, like it's their choice. and an actual bound book, and they're usually lay flat books, so there's no more individual prints. They're actually on the pages of a book. Some people prefer that. Personally, I would prefer having an individual print in an album, but it's, I guess up to your client. So if it's an actual book, then you'll need to get all this information, the ones they want, the images they want for the book, plus the images they're purchasing extra, and have them all made into the book so that you could deliver it. Now, I mentioned, I started to touch on it. The site, let's say they buy an 8 by 10 print and you're selling it for $20. They pay the site. The site keeps a small percentage. I'm not sure what it is, and I'm sure it varies by site. You set the price at $20. Let's say you use Bay Photo Lab, and for that 8 by 10 print, it costs $2.75. So that gets taken out of the $20 plus that small percentage. Let's, for the sake of argument, say it's $2. So $4.75 comes out, and then you get the remaining $15.25. And it's in your account at SmugMug, and then periodically you'd have it deposited into your business account. So that's how you handle money. You don't need to pay a credit card processor or anything like that. They do it all for you. That's part of your fee with that company. So that's kind of the mechanics of, I guess, the prints nowadays, and how you could do it, and how I would encourage you to do it that way instead of being a shoot and burn photographer. Now, as far as the marketing part of it, this is what worked for me back in the film day. There were no computers, nobody had Facebook and things like that. But when I was taking a picture, I had my business cards with me, and I always made sure that everyone in the wedding party got my business card, especially the girls. It seemed like every wedding I did, somebody was in the wedding and hired me a year later because they were getting married. And that is important. Make sure that everyone in the wedding party gets your business card, because they're going to end up seeing the proofs eventually, and hopefully you do a good job, they're going to hire you as well. So make sure they all get it. Now, what I would recommend you do nowadays is get your business card with all your business information on the front, and then on the back have it blank, but have lines there that say, let's say you're using SmugMug again, and there's the Smith Wedding specific website address. You would handwrite that in there. Now, you have to set this up before the wedding. So you're doing the Smith Wedding, this Saturday. Make sure it's set up ahead of time. Fill out the cards before the wedding and handwrite the website where they're going to see their prints, the password for them to get in, and if there's a username, that all gets added there, and the date the proofs will be ready, and make sure that you have them ready on that date. One of the #1 complaints about wedding photographers is they don't deliver prints on time, they don't deliver pictures on time, whatever. Like, one of the axioms of business is to under-promise and over-deliver, and don't do it the other way around. Don't over-promise and under-deliver. That will get you in trouble every time. So give yourself maybe a week, 2 weeks to get these prints or the processed images on SmugMug or whatever. You're going to write all that down, have that date there, but get them there early. That's what I recommend. You give that card with that information on to everyone in the wedding. You give it to all the parents. Anyone that you have them available at the wedding, it's places near the wedding cake, have a stack of your cards there with that info back there. Images will be available to be viewed on this date at this website with this password. Have it there. That is the best way to get your marketing out, to let them see your work. So everyone at this wedding will see those images and have the opportunity to purchase prints. So that's how you could make a lot of sales, by getting those images on there. And Aunt Martha sees a picture of, her daughter with the bride, and she wants that picture, so she buys it. You know what I mean? So get those images on there and get those business cards with your information on the front and on the back, that information about that specific wedding. The other thing you'd want to do is, when you set up the wedding, Give the bride, they're signing the contracts, give them an information sheet that you want. Tell them you want it back within a week, or at least a few weeks before the wedding. And what you want on there is you want shots that they may want. Explain to them that you're going to take the typical shots, but they may want a specific shot because they have Uncle Eddie and they really love Uncle Eddie and they want pictures of Uncle Eddie with so-and-so. So make sure any special shots they write down. But also on that piece of paper, tell them you want the names of everyone that is going to be in the wedding. So, I've done weddings with 24, 12 girls and 12 guys standing up in the wedding. And you want all those names. And if possible, whether or not they're on Facebook or not. And what you want to do then is when you have some of the proofs processed, or maybe all of them, and you want to show the best ones, you want to put them on your Facebook page, your business's Facebook page, and you want to tag everyone in the wedding. And I know some people get mad about being tagged. Risk it, I'd say. Tag everyone in the wedding. So you have this image, tag them all. That way, it'll be on Facebook, have your watermark on the image, have the image just big enough so it looks okay on Facebook, but it's not big enough to be printed nicely, let's put it that way. So I would say make the long edge no more than 900 pixels, definitely no more than 1200 pixels. I know some photographers say 1200. So 900 pixels, 1200 pixels at the most. Put those images on Facebook, great images, compliment everyone. Beautiful people at the Smith wedding, and have a few of the images, tag everyone in the wedding. It'll show up on their wall either automatically or some people have it set so they have to approve it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You have your watermark on there. It starts getting seen by more eyes. They see that, so-and-so photography is doing this wedding. Those are great images. Word of mouth is your best way to sell. Now, you're not going to put like passwords so a stranger could go on to SmugMug or whatever, one of these sites, and look at the images. You're not doing that. You're just putting a sample image, or 3 or 4 or 6. And you're having your watermark on it, and you're going to compliment about what a great wedding it was, beautiful reception, whatever. Just make it complimentary and be honest. And like I said, tag everyone in the wedding. It's important that you do that. They'll see it, they'll share it, they'll whatever, So that will help your marketing and help you get more clients. I would say not only have your watermark, like let's say your Lucy and Ethel photography, let's say, all right? And not only have that, have your website on the watermark as well. So people could go to your website, look at your pricing and things like that if you have your pricing on your website. So that is really important, that type of marketing. Like I mentioned, you're going to find that your business person first, marketer second, a salesman third, and your photographer really is well down the line. Now, equipment. Back when I did it, even a 35 millimeter camera wasn't good enough. It didn't produce a good enough print, especially for larger prints. How I really made a lot of money is I sold large prints. And a 35 millimeter negative just wasn't good enough for a 20 by 24 print, in my opinion. So most wedding photographers back then, we used medium format cameras with film, medium format film cameras. Nowadays, though, sensors are really advanced. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but you could get away with a crop sensor camera. I think you'll do fine as long as it has low noise. It's a decent crop sensor camera. You'll be fine. I would say that when you can, you should upgrade to a full-size sensor camera, especially if you want to sell large prints. It's just more resolution. That's just all there is. The main advantage is more resolution. You could get bigger prints with the big sensor cameras. So full-size sensor cameras, I should say. So you could be crop sensors fine. Again, glass though is more important. It really is. You're going to need fast glass. Kit lenses usually won't cut it. There's a lot of places of worship you're going to be a photographer at, and the priest I've had priests come up, no flash, no flash photography. Um, so you're going to have fast glass. Now, when I did it, zoom lenses weren't as sophisticated and the image quality wasn't as good. And for medium format cameras, zoom lenses just weren't even available as much. So we used fixed focal length lenses. Now for a crop sensor camera, a 50 millimeter 1.8 lens will work great. It'll work great. But the zoom lenses nowadays are much better. If you could afford to get a fast zoom lens, like in 24 to 70 f at 2.8, you want really f at 2.8 or faster on your lens. So a lot of wedding photographers still like to use fixed focal length lenses. They'll use 85 millimeter 1.8 or 1.4. They'll use 50 millimeter 1.8 or 1.4. Especially if you have a full frame, you're going to probably want the 85 millimeter. If you have a crop sensor camera, you're going to prefer the 50 millimeter. But if you could afford to get the zoom lens, your probably workhorse lens for a wedding would be a 24 to 70 f at 2.8. That would be your workhorse lens. Also a 70 to 200 f at 2.8. You'd use that somewhat too. Not as much, but you would use that. So fast glass is more important. So if you have a crop sensor camera and a kit lens and you have some money to spend, don't buy a full frame camera, buy fast glass. Definitely, if you could, afford, now like I'm quoting sizes of lenses because I'm very familiar with Nikon. So you have to look what's available for your manufacturer camera. Canon, I know, makes a 24 to 70. Hopefully others do too if you shoot Pentax or something like that. So look for the fastest lens you could afford, basically. Fast glass is very, very important. The thing is with the faster glass that a lot of people don't realize, your camera focuses a lot faster usually. So that is important in a wedding. A lot of the moments are fleeting. You're going to take images of people that just kissing at the altar. The father of the bride and the groom are going to shake hands, and usually it's not held. It's very quick, and you have to focus quickly and take the shot. And the fast glass will really help with your focusing. Now, one thing I should add real quick. Nowadays, everyone has cameras and in their phone, and I've seen pictures online of a photographer taking a picture and everyone in the wedding, now the bride and groom are kissing on the altar, and everyone that's at the wedding are in front of him with their camera phones taking pictures, ruining his shot. What I would say you have to do is you have to tell the bride and groom that it's going to be a no camera wedding for the ceremony, at least for the ceremony. And I would say that you need to get a sign made up, pretty big. And you want it on an easel as people are walking into the church or the reception, wherever the actual ceremony is being held, so they see it and saying that this is a no camera wedding. Please do not take pictures. We hired a photographer, whatever. You just want it short and sweet, no pictures. So people aren't getting in your way. Ask whoever is officiating the wedding to make an announcement before the wedding that no one is allowed to take pictures except the wedding photographer. This might come across bad if it's not done right, so you got to really think of a way to make it work, that it's really in their best interest, that people aren't jumping in front of you right when you're trying to take that decisive shot. So make sure, I would say definitely make sure you have that agreed to ahead of time, that you're going to shoot the wedding, but at least as far as the ceremony is concerned, you're the only one shooting. So no one jumps in front of you and gets in your way and ruins your shot. Now for the reception, you do the garter toss and all that other stuff. Everyone could take pictures on that. That's really not as big a deal. But in the church, especially if it's a religious ceremony and stuff like that, it's going to be a problem. And it wasn't a problem when I was a wedding photographer, but I see it nowadays. It could be a problem. So just I would say that's a must. Make sure that you get that taken care of. So that's it. That's, I think, enough of me blabbing around, blabbing about what you need to do to get started in wedding photography. That isn't meant to be all-encompassing, but just enough to get you started. Now, next week on Photography is My Passion, I haven't decided exactly what we're going to talk about yet. I might talk about back button focusing, but I've also like to talk about this kind of thing that really bugs me too, about people saying post-processing is ruining photography and you know, just let the camera do the work and stuff like that. I want to talk about that a little bit too. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to do. I guess it depends what mood I'm in. If you have a suggestion though, leave it in the comments below and I'll definitely do a podcast episode on your suggestion. So let me know. That's it for now. I appreciate everyone watching. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.